A very warm welcome to Rediscovering Childhood, a space where we have meaningful and practical conversations that reshape the way we understand childhood and rethink how we act, communicate, and think every day. My goal is to help you support your children in becoming the unique, amazing individuals they're meant to be, while we also work on becoming a better version of ourselves to role model what is truly possible. I'm your host, Mireia, and I combine my 16 years of experience across teaching, educational psychology, play therapy, and coaching with my personal journey as a parent, an entrepreneur, and someone who started a new life abroad, moving from Barcelona to Ireland 15 years ago. I'm also the founder of Discovery Playtime, an Irish business dedicated to creating learning through play experiences for children and teens and providing the supports that parents, teachers, and educators need to create more meaningful and joyful environments for the children in their care. Before we begin, please take a moment to subscribe or leave a review, or both. Your support helps us grow and continue our mission to empower parents and inspire a positive shift in the education system, which we all know we need. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Did you ever notice how many of the things you find difficult, uncomfortable, scary, or even true about yourself today were shaped by the beliefs you formed as a child? The fear of getting things wrong, the pressure to be perfect, the need to please others, the feeling of not being enough, or the discomfort around emotions. So many of the beliefs we carry into adulthood are created through the experiences we had as children and the meaning we gave to those experiences, often through the words, reactions, expectations, and emotional environment around us. But this conversation is not about blaming parents or staying stuck in the past. It's about awareness, understanding, and recognizing how small changes in the way we communicate, connect, and respond to children can completely transform how they see themselves, regulate emotions, build confidence, and move through the world. Joining me today is the fabulous amazing Danielle Serpico, NLP trainer, hypnotist, mindset coach, and best-selling author. After rebuilding her own life through subconscious rewiring and deep inner transformation, Danielle now helps thousands of people break free from limiting beliefs and step into more confident, aligned lives. And we're going to explore childhood identity, emotional regulation, behavior, nervous system, safety, confidence, limiting beliefs, and the powerful role parents and teachers play in shaping a child's inner world. Danielle, very welcome.
I am so excited to be here with you, Mireia. Delighted.
Thank you so much. And if there was one reason why parents need to listen to this episode, what would that be?
I would say they want to listen to this episode because, well, we love our children, right? So this is an opportunity to learn an even better way for us to express that love, show that love, and allow our children to feel that love.
I love that. And let's imagine a child who comes home and says, I'm not good at this and everybody hates me, or things like that. Big emotions when they come so overwhelmed. And then we parents say things like, we want to protect them and we want to help them feel good. So we block that and we say, no, you're amazing. We all love you. And I know you have some other examples that are really relevant to this.
Yeah.
What are we doing wrong? And how can we really help our children?
Yeah. So you see, this is the thing. And obviously, as you know, I talk about this a lot because it's not that we're doing something wrong per se. And it's obviously every parent is doing their best and we're doing it in the only way we know how. And we're actually doing it the way that we have been taught from our parents, probably, most likely, but even the best meaning parent is probably doing something that is not as effective as they intended to be. So as I've said, and I talk about this all the time, when a child is small, they don't even know that they have feelings. They don't know that their feelings are theirs. And they're confused about what these feelings are. And these feelings come up. So like they go along, they get bullied in the playground. They come home and they say, so-and-so said this to me and I feel terrible. And most parents, well-meaning, will say, oh God, don't be so silly. Like, you're great. You're gorgeous. Don't listen to him. You're perfect. You're wonderful. And superficially, that sounds okay. It sounds like, well, what am I doing wrong? Well, is that not what we're supposed to do? We're supposed to encourage our children. And yes, on a conscious level, of course. However, subconsciously, what is happening in this whole process is if a child gets this feeling in their body, and maybe they feel it as pain in their stomach, or they feel a bit nauseous, they feel a bit sick, and they say, I feel sick. And a parent will probably have the instinct that, okay, it's more than feeling sick, maybe something's going on. But the child hasn't yet been able to put words on that. They don't know all these things that are bubbling up inside of them. They haven't attached an emotion to it. They haven't connected that the sick feeling means that maybe I'm afraid. And this knot in my stomach, this pain in my stomach means that I'm ashamed. They haven't yet put an emotion to it. So when a parent, even though it's well-meaning, says, oh, don't be silly, don't be thinking that way, what happens is the child is then actually going in their subconscious very fast. They're actually learning, I won't feel this, I won't talk about this, but what I'll do is I will ask and I will look for continuously from my parent, and then as we grow older, from outside sources than myself, for outside validation, for reassurance, for approval, for opinion, for what's right or wrong, what I should feel, what I shouldn't feel. And we've learned the whole time to push our feeling under. We've never in that process learned to actually sit with our feeling and ask the child, what is it that they're feeling, and sit with that feeling and learn to actually work through that feeling, manage that feeling, understand that they can change that feeling. We haven't done that part. We've skipped that part by validating them, meaning well, trying to reassure them. But unfortunately, what we've done in the whole process is we've actually taught them to never look within. And that means that for their whole life then, and we have done the same, probably from our parents, we learn to constantly look outside of ourselves when we get a feeling, when we get an uncomfortable feeling that doesn't feel good. Oh, I feel scared now. I feel afraid. I feel confused. I feel bullied. I feel insecure. I feel anxious. We learn to avoid the feeling, push it down, push it under, repress it, and instead look for outside. What should I do? What do you think I should do? What should I do? And we look for outside validation and opinions of others, and we've never learned how to deal with our feelings. So that's kind of what happens, unfortunately.
That's so true. And I can totally relate with that because just to share an example, my mom has always told me how amazing I am, but I've never believed it. So it just shows it doesn't even help just because someone tells me, you're amazing, you're great, everything you do is perfect. Then there is suspiciousness. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't think so. And then I start questioning myself. So it doesn't even work just because someone tells you that. It's not realistic.
Yeah, because we've never learned how to feel that from within first. We've just heard it from an outside source, but we've never felt it first from within. And actually, as a compliment, what I would say is to everybody, to parents, in business and any aspect, what I would always say is, I mean, you are amazing is good, but also make it more specific. Like give it an example. Why? That will really land really more, like instead of just saying, okay, Mireia, you're amazing, we could say, oh, Mireia, you're so courageous. I love the way you show up. I love the way that you have a passion to talk about the subject that you talk about. I love the way your mind works. I think you're amazing because you do X, Y, and Z, because you show up this way, because you say X, Y, and Z. So the more specific we are, the more it will really land with the person. They go, oh, okay, that's why. And it makes sense when we give an answer why. But sometimes when we just say, oh, you're amazing, you're wonderful, it's kind of like, but like it's quite generic, and it can feel a little bit like lip service and disassociated.
Yeah, and that's really helping them move their focus to the positive things. Oh, yeah, I can do that to notice all the positive things. Because when you're so busy, and as a parent also, I go to bed and I see all the things that I had in my to-do list that I didn't do. And then I feel so guilty because I didn't do any of it. Instead, what that does is focus on all the things you did. So again, going back to, oh, you're amazing because you did this and you spend quality time with your kids outside, and you didn't have the most amazing dinner ready, but you spent some time playing with them outside. So it helps you then notice all the other things that you did do.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And you still gave them a dinner.
Yeah, even if it's popcorn, it's still dinner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so what could we do instead? How do we do that?
Instead of, we see every parent, every person who means well wants to immediately reassure. Our instinct is to naturally want to kind of, no, 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 don't be thinking that. You're amazing. That's our natural instinct because we've also been trained that way. We've heard it that way. We've learned it that way ourselves. So that's this is the perpetual cycle. So to change this, we've got to really sit with the fact that how does how do any of us, how do our children, how do we move into well-formed adults that can manage emotions, all emotions, not just the pleasant ones, even the ones that feel a little bit uncomfortable, even the ones that feel very uncomfortable. Every one of us wants our children to grow up being able to deal with difficult situations in a good way, in a healthy way, because we are intelligent enough to understand that our children are going to have to go through difficult times. Every single one of our children is going to be faced with adversity. Life has adversity in it. There are going to be challenges, there are going to be problems, there are going to be moments of difficulty. We can't shelter our children and stop our children from experiencing those moments. But what we can do is we can prime them, we can prepare them for those moments, for when that happens, how they're going to be able to respond. And this is the key. It's respond versus react. So if we continue the cycle, like the way we've been taught, of actually, unbeknownst to ourselves, teaching a child to avoid feelings and looking for us to say, you did great, you're amazing, don't mind so-and-so, you're perfect, you're wonderful, then all we're doing is reinforcing that I'll push my feelings under. I will never learn how to address my feelings. And then the cycle continues that they've never learned to address their feelings, sit with their feelings, and then they will continue to be reactive. Because what happens is sometimes our feelings bubble over, and we can't stop it. Like, so we repress, and we grow into adults even that will repress. So as a child, what'll happen is they'll repress. They won't say what they really feel. Maybe they're learning that from their parents, to never really express themselves. They're learning from the parents. Maybe the parent doesn't want to cry or show the upset in front of you. So your child will do the same, never show when they're really upset. They'll repress the feelings, or, they repress, they hold all this anger in, which is hurt, right? And then eventually they lash out. Eventually they'll have the tantrum, and they'll have their little screaming match because they haven't been able to, it bubbled over. And that will continue into adulthood unless we change it. So how do we change it? The way we change it is we do really some simple steps. We pause before we start giving advice, before we start saying our opinion, and start saying, oh yeah, you're great, don't mind Johnny, you got bullied in the playground, don't mind him, you're perfect. Before that, let's actually pause and let's do something in between. And that is what I call acknowledge, validate, and reassure. It's based around inner child work, and it's to help the child learn how to feel for the first time probably in their life. So your child comes along and says, I've been bullied in the playground, I've got a funny feeling in my stomach, and you actually acknowledge it. You actually acknowledge it, because remember, the child has never actually had that happen, possibly. Like, because you've been meaning well, but teaching them to avoid it by saying, oh, here's a hot chocolate, or don't think about that, let's go and do something else, or here's this will make you feel better. And you've possibly never given them an opportunity to sit with that uncomfortable feeling. So they don't even know that it's theirs. They don't even know they're meant to have it. They don't even know it's natural to have it, that it's normal to have it, that it's okay to have it. It doesn't mean anything about them. It doesn't mean that they're bad children. It doesn't mean that they're flawed. For the first time in their life, when you actually say, you know what, okay, I hear you. So what you're saying is you have this funny feeling in your tummy, and so said this to you. And for the first time, it's kind of, yeah, I have a funny feeling in my tummy, and so said that to me. And it's kind of like you feel seen and heard, that the child does, possibly for the first time ever. And then what you can say is, so that's acknowledged, and then you validate it. You validate it and show the child that it's okay and it's normal to have that feeling, because that's what feelings are. Feelings are signals. They're signals to tell us, like, hey, something's happening here. And we're supposed to have them. We're humans. So we're supposed to have them. That's what they're there for. They're to alert us of something. So we want to teach our child that they are a full human being with all the emotions, and all the emotions have a purpose and a place, and it's okay for them to feel that feeling. So the next thing what you do is, after you acknowledge it, you validate, and you say, okay, so you know what? I get why you would feel that funny feeling in your tummy. I would probably feel it as well if someone said that to me. And then your child is kind of like, you would? So I'm normal. It's okay for me to have this feeling. It's normal. You would feel that too. Of course I would, sweetheart. I would feel that too. Oh, okay, thank God. Like I didn't know it was okay for me to have it. I thought there was something wrong with me. Like, no, it's perfectly understandable why you would have that feeling. So now they don't make it mean anything else about themselves. Now they know that it's normal to have that feeling. And then you can start to reassure. You can start to say, like, would you like to change that feeling? Do you like that feeling? And they might say, no, I don't. It doesn't feel good. I don't like that feeling. Can I change it? Of course, it's your feeling. Would you like to like look and see how we can change it? Oh, I'd love to, see and learn how I could change it. And then maybe you might say, let's have a hot chocolate, let's have a talk, and let's see how we can change that feeling into a better feeling, which is probably already changed at that stage to a better feeling. So that's how we pause and we allow them to feel it so that they don't make the feeling a bad thing. This is the key. Most of us have learned, we've been taught, and we've passed it on that feeling is a bad thing. But feeling is normal. So it's not like we can ever stop the uncomfortable feelings and just have only pleasant feelings in our body. It's about learning that when we have an unpleasant feeling, how then can we change it if we want to change it to a better feeling? And that's the key.
That's so powerful. And I can say it's so powerful because I have been learning that with you for a long time now. And it just works. And what I've learned, and I can link it with this, is the importance of maybe doing that with ourselves first before we can actually do it with our children, because we create that habit then. So then when my kids come home now with this, I can spot it straight away
Yeah.
and go from giving advice and reassuring straight away that everything is okay, actually take a step back. Well, take 3 steps back and pause, acknowledge, validate, reassure. But I've done it with myself first.
You can see, you can see the difference straight away in doing that either for yourself and also with kids. Like rather than just, oh no, don't be thinking of that. Here, have hot chocolate. It's actually disempowering them rather than empowering them. We're actually disempowering it. Like you always need me or somebody else to help you feel better rather than actually understanding this is a normal feeling that comes up when these situations happen. And now, guess what? You have the power to do something about it because you're spectacular, you're powerful, you know what I mean? Rather than making it mean that, oh God, we want to avoid this dirty subject that you have an uncomfortable feeling and let's distract the child. No, to have a feeling. It doesn't mean anything bad. It's a good thing. It means you're a whole human being. And we want to teach our children that. And isn't that so much more empowering to give them the power to change it?
And that brought to an extreme is probably then adults who need to spend a lot of money because they can't deal with their own feelings, or even drinking or drugs or whatever it is, just to cover those feelings. So they just got too big.
100%. I mean, I have adults every day coming to my office or coming to work with me or whatever, walk the talk or something like that. And really, to be honest, here's the big secret. None of them are adults. None of us are adults, really. Most of us are in an adult body, but we're really still in that childish mode because we've never actually done the work ourselves. We've always learned to avoid. So that's why I'd have men that are, you know, in their 70s coming and sitting here and telling me that they're alcoholics because they've spent their life avoiding feelings ever from childhood. They've been taught to push the feelings under, ignore the feelings, and so they've looked for outside sources to take their mind off it. So that can be drinking, that can be women, men overeating, coming to me for like every time I feel something, I have to eat to distract myself, to numb myself. Food, it can be shop spending, it can be sex.
Yeah, yeah.
It can be any sort of distraction, any sort of distraction. It can to take our minds off. It can be Netflix, it can be
Yeah,
Facebook,
online gaming. Yeah.
online gaming, anything that like we get, to avoid us feeling. And these are habits that we grow up and the same with, for example, it's sensitive, but even people that are abusive and violent and aggressive, that comes from the same thing. It's that they are now the adult child that is having the tantrum in the supermarket and kicking their mother's shins and saying, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, because they've never learned how to be responsive and they're still in reaction mode, and they've grown up into abusive, men and women that they're beating their partner because they've never learned how to regulate their emotions because they were never taught that.
And I think seeing that bigger picture really helps us understand why long term impact is more important, and then pause and take all these steps over a short term reassurance straight away. No, you're perfect. You're amazing. It's great. Life is perfect. It's so much more important. Yeah.
It's always about pausing. It's always about pausing and thinking, taking that count back from 3 and take a step and just say, is this really the best approach to empower my child or empower myself? Is this deflection, take my mind off it. Like, and we say it as adults, like, just want to take my mind off it. And we say it to our children, here's an ice pop to take your mind off it, or to just give them something to distract them, not so they don't think about that. As we've continued that all our lives, and all that does is grow us up into reactive adults, reactive children in adult bodies. And it's not even in just in abusive ways like that. It's also in ways that, like, we sabotage ourselves, like avoidance. So it's like the ways we will pull back and hide and not show up and not speak up because we've learned again to push our feelings under. And we've learned, like, it's like, as adults, we're still that little child that's hiding under the blankets or avoiding something or running away from something, like when we break up from our partner or we leave our partner or we have all these moments because we're avoiding pain, we're avoiding rejection, we're avoiding abandonment, we're avoiding all of these things because we've never learned how to sit with feelings and we've only learned how to avoid them. And so we continue in the pattern of staying reactive rather than becoming responsive.
Yeah. So do you think then when all these emotions are coming up, when something happens as adults, something triggers those emotions of rejection, is that to do with our inner child? Is our inner child feeling hurt? Something coming back from a blast from the past?
1,000,000%. Most of the time it is. And so for some people, maybe saying inner child might sound too fluffy. We could say the part of our psyche that has not yet, that never got a chance to mature. We could call it that if that sits more comfortably, you know what I mean? But yes, it's a part of us that is still in a childish mode because it never got the opportunity to learn how to be the one that has self-sovereignty of their emotions. They were never taught it's normal for you to feel. It is normal for you to have uncomfortable feelings. We can't just have the good feelings and not the bad feelings. We are the whole parcel. We have all of them. So we want to have all the emotions, and unless we learn how to sit with feelings, we will carry that on, and we will continue to be reactive adults, and our children will continue to be reactive children, and they'll grow up into reactive adults because we're also teaching them that. We're showing them by osmosis and our behavior. If we show them that we avoid feeling as well, because that's how they learn, that's the biggest way they're going to learn, not just from what you say to them. They're also going to learn by what you're doing. So I've had so many parents that I've spoken with, like, for example, I'll give you a short story, like a woman that her child, she knew that there was something going on, but that her child didn't want to tell her. And her child was complaining about having sore shins, sore legs. And the mum had brought her to everyone to see everyone because she wanted to check there was something physical, and they couldn't find anything wrong with her. But she just kept on talking about her sore legs. But this particular family had gone through a lot of trauma. There was a lot of abuse in the family. And the children had witnessed a lot of trauma that the mother was under. But the mother didn't want to show the children that she was upset. So doing her best always to come and look happy and, never let the children see her cry or upset. But the children knew. The children knew that the mother was upset, but she never showed it. So of course the child started to not show her emotions. So as it turned out, we had a number of sessions, and then eventually I told her to speak to the legs. And so she did. She went and she was rubbing some oils into the legs, and she spoke to the legs as a separate entity. So she didn't speak to the child. So instead of saying, so let's say the child was called, I don't remember the child's name. So let's say the child was called Sophia. So instead of saying, Sophia, how was school today and how are you feeling? It was like, how are you, legs? How are you feeling? And after doing that, right, now what she did first was the day before it wasn't that she pretended to cry, but she had spoken to her child and told her child, because under our conversation, etc., to show her emotions. And she told her child that she wasn't okay. She told her child that she was upset. She told her child that she was sad and that she was going through things and she wasn't feeling good. And, so the next day she massaged the child's shins, spoke to the shins, and guess what happened? The shins started speaking back, saying, no, we're not okay. We're sad because in school this is happening, that's happening, and this kind of thing. So the child started to speak. And it was simply because she had been given permission now because she had witnessed her mother also speaking up and saying that it was okay not to be okay, basically. So if we continue to avoid feeling and using distractions, our children are going to do the same.
That's so important. They're giving permission. I think that's key. When we do that, we give permission to ourselves and we give permission to our children, and then it opens up so many conversations and a really, really nice connection as well.
Yeah, I mean, having feelings isn't a dirty subject, and having uncomfortable feelings, we've made it into like a dirty subject. It's like we can't talk if we feel bad, like as if that's abnormal. But again, I think the key message that I kind of want to share is that we are human beings and it is absolutely part of it. We cannot have the good feelings without the bad feelings. It's yin yang, it's black and white. We can't have the joy without the sadness. We can't have love without hate. We can't have fear without courage. All of these things come together. So we are complete human beings. So spending our lives, whether we're adults or children, trying to avoid uncomfortable feelings and wanting to just be in good feelings and never be in bad feelings, but uncomfortable feelings. I don't like to say bad because every feeling has a purpose. Is a losing battle, and eventually it'll show up in an adult, in their relationships, in their health, in their business, in every aspect of our lives. So the quicker that we accept that we are human beings and we have all feelings, the quicker we can start actually learning how to manage those feelings.
What are feelings telling us? Those uncomfortable feelings, anger, for example. What's anger telling us? I was very angry 2 days ago myself. What was it telling me?
It tells us that we feel that there's an injustice being done, that something unfair has been done, that we feel like we've been treated in a bad way, that we've been disrespected. We feel like an injustice has been done. So it's an alert signal. It's telling us, okay, as I call it, the little people are going, alert, alert, alert. Mireia, we're pressing the big red button. We're giving you that feeling, Inside Out, the animated film, right? We're sending that feeling through. So all of a sudden you get a whoosh of anger because, okay, she feels that somebody treated her the wrong way, said the wrong thing, disrespected her, disregarded her, took her for granted. We feel like an injustice has been done. So they send the corresponding emotion based on the thought that you've had that this person, this thing, these people, have treated me badly, have been unfair to me in some way. And it's just the feeling that comes attached with the thought. It's meant to be there. It's supposed to be there. And so for us to go, okay, I have a feeling there's an injustice being done. Now let me look at that feeling and that thought and let me see if it's true or not. But the feeling goes with the thought. It's the corresponding feeling for the thought that we've actually in the story that we've played out in our head, whether that's real or not. And it's just giving us an alert signal to say, okay, do you want to investigate this? Like
That's
if we
really
get
good for our children then to ask the right questions when they're angry. They're just showing us that they have values and they have beliefs and something has betrayed those. So it's really asking the right questions then to help them manage that emotion.
100%, it's not that it's good or bad. It's just, it's a signal. It's an alert. It's kind of like, okay, we got to do something because she's had this thought. So we got to make her take action so that she then investigates. So you get the feeling and now it's kind of like, okay, what do I want to do about this feeling? Let me look at it. Let me ask questions to see if it's true. Is it just a belief I have on past stuff? Can I be 100% right on this? Is it possible that I'm wrong? Is it possible that I've got the wrong perspective of this? Could I look at this in a different way? Is this a fact or just a belief? So we can ask questions then to chunk down, to break it down and to see, is it just a story I'm telling myself based on previous stuff? Like, am I just jumping to conclusions? Am I having a cause and effect moment because it happened before and now I believe it's going to happen again? And we can challenge that. And that gives us, again, opens up our world. It gives us possibilities. And that's for an adult and for a child. It teaches us now how to move through that and see what we choose to believe next.
That is really useful because anger is, let's say, one of the most triggering emotions from our kids.
And again, it's because they haven't learned to sit with it. Like if a kid is very angry, they're trying to push it under. They're hurt and they're trying to push it under, but they've become reactive and they're lashing out in anger because it's all this emotion is spilling out and they've no way to manage it and control it because it's got too much. So when a child is angry, it's probably the hardest time to control them. We want to control them isn't the word we really want, is to help them to calm down, obviously, because they're at the most heightened state. It's probably not the time to teach them how to deal with emotions. Obviously we want to calm them down, but it's not really the moment to help them to learn about this. The moment to learn about this is when they're in a smaller state and when you're acknowledging it and saying, okay, and they say, well, I feel uncomfortable with that. And then teaching them how to sit with that feeling so that it doesn't escalate into those reactive states that are so escalated. Do you know what I mean? Because if they're in that state, they're really hurting at that moment and they're overwhelmed by it. And obviously we want to reassure them at that point as parents.
That makes a lot of sense. I want to go back to my childhood. Share an example. I thought I'll get a bit of therapy for myself while you're here. Sixth class, so I was 11, 12, and I fancied a boy in the classroom, a good looking guy in the classroom. I told my friends, I had a close group of friends, 5 friends, and I told them, and one of them got really jealous because she liked him too. So she told him, and then they started calling me Fat Ball and Jigglypuff. I was a tiny bit chubby. Anyway, and he started calling me Jigglypuff, which is the round pink Pokemon, and Fat Ball and all these things. It was a very traumatic year. Then all my friends left me. It was bowling then. I remember we had a school play and they asked me to help them to take part, and I was so happy. And they only wanted me to pull the curtain up and down and just being backstage doing that. So I wasn't really at the play. Then PE, I was always picked last. So that obviously had an impact on me because then after that, I find it really hard now to trust people. So when that happens, like how that's going to impact me as well on how I talk to my children about friendships and all of that, or what they see about myself making and holding friendships. So when it's been so long after that, and I can't even remember how my parents dealt with that situation, but how do I even say this? Like I was going to say, get rid of this trauma, but how do I deal with that now and start trusting more and just really breaking that belief that other people will hurt me, for example, if I trust them?
So, I mean, there's so many layers and there's
So many, yes.
many. I mean, first of all, you showed me so much in your conversation there, on a subconscious level of where the problem is. And you very much showed me by your gestures and your subconscious, like, how do I get rid of this trauma? And you have it right in front of you. So that's one thing that we'd want to look at is where it is. So that's something that, you and I will look at, because we want to move it away. We basically want to put it behind you. Right. And subconsciously, it's still present. So, and obviously it's still blocking you because you also brought this up as a subject. So we want to move that behind you. So from a really, it's wonderful that we're doing this publicly, but from a really personal aspect, we want to move that subconscious representation behind you because it's still in your way currently, right? But we will move that. The other things I would say is you are doing the work, and you're doing a lot of this work, is really understanding that was in the past. First of all, that we don't have to make it mean that every single person is going to do the same thing, right? And you understand that on a logical adult level. So that's why the way we represent our inner world, kind of, even though we understand it consciously, logically, but if our inner world is still having things in the wrong place, misplaced, we want to move those. We want to move that trauma behind you. That's the first thing. We want to imagine it like a big energy ball and literally turn it over your left shoulder behind you so that it's in your past and it gets smaller and smaller and tiny so that it's gone, first of all. So you can see the paths ahead, and now we want to put something better in your future. So there's a number of things. Like one, obviously, I suggest doing the inner child work because that's a lot of the work, and it's acknowledging, validating, reassuring your inner child that in relation to this conversation, that it's okay, they're safe now. So for example, let's say you feel, when we do inner child work, let's say you feel an emotion such as, oh, I feel scared to allow people in. I'm afraid of getting hurt, right? And that feeling comes up. When we do inner child work, when we acknowledge, validate, and reassure, and we go, you know what, hey, I notice that you're feeling scared, that inner child inside of you. I acknowledge that. And you know what? I understand why you would, based on what had happened previously, right? So I understand why you would feel afraid. I get that. I understand it. I would feel it as well. So we validate and then we reassure. But now we can start actually talking to the child and saying, you know what, like, I totally understand why you feel this way, but now you're here. You're now here. It's now, what year are we in? 2020, what year are we in? 2026. We are now in 2026, and you're no longer there. You're now here. You're with me. You're safe. It's okay. It's a completely different situation. That's a feeling from the past. We can put that behind us because that's a feeling from the past. I want you to know now it's different. Now it's different. And now, so I would be practicing that. I would be doing that on a regular basis to reassure the inner voice that still thinks that they're still back there, that it's now 2026 and they're here now. So that's one thing I would do. And that's the whole point of inner child work. The repetition of that helps the child feel safe to understand that we've moved on, that we're in a different place. And it's also teaching us that we are the adult now. We're no longer the child. We are the adult. So it's kind of separating you from those childlike fears and feelings. So that's important. And then I would say you got to keep building your vision. And again, you've got to challenge that old belief. I would say on a practical level, are you asking yourself daily, well, how do I know this to be true? Exactly what we do with the child. Like, how do I know this for a fact? Is this a fact, or is this based on my old thinking? Like the elephant that gets, tied to the pole and he tries and he tries and he can't break free and eventually gives up, and they tie him to the pole the next day and the next, and the month after month after month after month. And years later, he's this big, huge elephant and he's tied to that tiny little pole, and he doesn't even bother to try to break free because his belief is he thinks he can't, when the reality is he could just snap it like a twig. So his belief is based on the past. So we have to challenge as adults. We've got to challenge our beliefs and keep on creating new neural pathways that bring us in a different direction. And we've got to keep saying, well, how do I know this to be true? Where's this feeling coming from? Is this a feeling from now, or is this a feeling from the past? It's a feeling from the past. I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know if this person is going to hurt me. I can't read the future. So what am I better doing? Am I better basing it on one or two occasions in the past and making that presumption? And how will I live my life if I live it like that? Or am I better like looking for evidence that there are, wonderful people out there, wonderful relationships, other situations where people have had different results? Am I better basing it on other evidence? Which one will make me feel better? Which one will allow me to open up more? Which one will allow me to have a better life, to feel better, to behave in better ways, to give myself more opportunities to attract the right type of people that won't hurt me, the right type of opportunities, et cetera, et cetera? Which one is going to give me more of a chance to attract better opportunities? Is it being closed off and thinking, oh, it's going to be like before? Or is it opening up and allowing myself to actually experience something new? So asking ourselves good questions and continuously challenging those old beliefs is how we move forward.
Yeah, moving from what if they hurt me to what if they see me? What if they support me?
What if
What
they
if
love me? What if this is
oh,
about to open up the best relationship in my life, the best opportunity? And, what if this is going to be phenomenal? What if this is going to be incredible? What if this is going to, give me everything that I've ever wanted? What if this is going to make me feel alive? So these are better questions.
mm,
Because remember, the questions that we ask ourselves will force our mind. Our mind is a computer. So it's forced. It's forced to give you the answer based on the question that you ask. So this is really important, actually, and it's a really important subject. So I often use the analogy of a snow globe. I don't know if you've ever heard me saying this before, but like if I was to hold a snow globe, and let's imagine that snow globe is your mind. And inside the snow globe, there's all these little snowflakes. And let's imagine they're your thoughts, right? And when your mind is full and shaking and you're busy and all these snowflakes, all these thoughts fill up your snow globe, your mind. And then when you allow it to settle, all those snowflakes fall to the bottom and your mind is clear. So we've got that. So you're with me so far. The snow globe is your mind. The snowflakes are your thoughts. My question is, who's holding the snow globe, right? You are. You, the energy, the soul, the spirit, whatever you believe, is the one that's holding the snow globe. So we are not, and this was probably the biggest thing that changed my life. When I went and, had a whole crisis and everything collapsed back and, years ago, and my whole business, and this became my business, was because I discovered this. I learned that, oh my God, I am not my mind. I am something so much bigger, so much more powerful than my mind. My mind is the most incredible, wonderful, incredible, fantastic computer there ever was. That's what our mind is, the best computer on the planet, but it's not us. It's a computer. And this is really important for us and our children to understand, that our brain is a computer. It is not who we are. It is not our soul or spirit. So a computer works like this. If you type into Google on your computer, give me recipes for spaghetti bolognese, it's going to give you recipes for spaghetti bolognese because that's what you've asked for. So we will give you the answers from what you've asked for based on what it has in its filing cabinet and it's stored in its computer. So it's the same with us. If we ask questions, our questions always direct us based on the question that you ask. So if you asked, oh, could this turn out like before? Will I get hurt? Your mind is going to go look in its filing cabinet, your brain, in its filing cabinet of all the occasions that you got hurt before, and it's going to show you that evidence on your Google top of the list and say, yeah, because this happened before, because this happened, this is what we've got in the computer, this is what we got in the filing cabinet. But if you ask, could this be joyful? Could this be beneficial for me? Could this bring me more love? Could this bring me more happiness? Could this bring me more abundance in my life? Then your computer, your brain has to go looking for those answers. It's going to look for the evidence. Yeah, you did this before and it gave you this. You did this before and this happened to give it, and it'll give you the evidence for that. So your questions always dictate. Your questions, you, the powerful one, are the one that has the opportunity to choose what questions to ask your Google. And so be aware of that, because you will get the responses based on everything that you've had in your life so far for either one.
I learned so much about that from you. And I want to share an example that happened yesterday. I'm teaching Spanish in 5th and 6th class. And a child said yesterday, I've such bad memory. I can't remember any words. I'm really bad at learning languages and learning Spanish. I just can't remember anything. And I said, try to say something different. Let's say this is so Danielle Serpico. So Danielle. I've been Danielled. And I said, try to say, I'm really excited about learning new words in a new language. It's really exciting. And then he said that, he's like, I'm really excited about learning new words and I'm really good at Spanish. It was brilliant. And then from then on, everything changed in the classroom. He was taking things in and participating more, and he was just embracing that new thought of possibility. Like, I'm really excited to learn this. I don't know it, but I'm excited to learn it. So I think it's definitely related to what you were talking about what you put in that computer and what you're searching. You're telling your brain, I'm excited about what's possible, rather than
Yeah.
I'm frustrated. I'm anxious because I just can't learn it. It's too much for my brain. So talk a little bit more about that.
I love that. Well done. I love what you said. And that's a perfect example. I also, in what you're saying, what comes up for me there is something that is also really important, is our I am statements. We've heard this. Most of us have heard this before. I am are the two most powerful words that we would ever use. What comes after shapes us, right? So I am links directly to identity bias. So when we say I am the type of person who blah blah blah, who can't learn languages, we're going to continue to prove ourselves right, because confirmation bias kicks in and we want to prove ourselves right. So we've put in a command. We've said, I am this type of person. So I am the type of person. I am someone who can't remember names, numbers, no good at this. I am this, that, and the other. I'm blah, blah, blah. We're going to confirm ourselves right. And this is so important with our children, because it's the same as you are. It's the exact same thing. So I am and you are. So when we're speaking to ourselves, it matters. So I am. And when we're speaking to others, it matters just as much. So for our children, so for example, let's say a child behaves in a way that is, I don't like using the word bold, but like and acts out in a way that is not
Inconvenient.
Productive, beneficial, whatever. Instead of saying you're bold or you're, whatever, like you're too much right now. You're troublesome. You're difficult. These words are so hypnotic. They are going to shape your child into that, because it's a direct subliminal command to the brain, and it's directly accessing identity bias. So you are sentences if you want to obviously influence your child in a beneficial way, you want to only use them when you're saying something positive afterwards. Like, you are wonderful, you are intelligent, you are creative, you're whatever it is, but not when it's a negative thing. So it's never, you are terrible at that. You are no good at this. You are bad at that. You are bold. You are behaving like this type of child right now. Never with something negative. You are just as important as I am. Words. So if it's a behavior that you want to change, then address the behavior, not the person, not the child. So instead of you are bold, that behavior that you did is not acceptable. You know what I mean? So change it to a behavior, because it immediately removes it from them, who they are. So they don't grow up believing that they're bold children or stupid children. I'm not that I doubt anyone's going to say you're stupid to your child, but just be so aware that those words have power. So instead of you are and a negative afterwards, if it is something unbeneficial, say that behavior is, I am not tolerating that behavior. We are not going to stand for this. So, you're going to, that behavior is not acceptable. So they're better sentences to use, because they're addressing the behavior, not the child at the core, who they are. And that's so important when it comes to you, I am, and you are. If it's something good, absolutely say you are, and then they'll want to confirm that identity.
And if that was in the classroom, for example, what are some things that teachers can say to encourage children to want to learn more, to have more curiosity and to use their imagination? What words could we use to empower them?
Well, again, I would be saying you are for empowering words. So, like a little bit like we were saying at the start of this, instead of just a generic compliment, make it specific. I've used this in business all the time. And I remember when I had my restaurants in another lifetime previously to all of this work. And when I learned this about identity bias, I understood how to use it to motivate the staff. Like, so instead of just making a generic compliment, like, oh, you're great, or you're really good at your job, which is kind of so generic, make it specific, because it's so motivating. I even remember a staff member, it still stays in my brain, and it was like it's 20 years ago or something. And I still remember a day a staff member of mine made me feel so good. And I still remember exactly what she said. And it was a perfect example of it. And she didn't know she was using it. I don't think she did, but she just genuinely said it. It was one day that I had a really difficult customer, and I was standing there, and this customer was going on and on and on and on. And I sat and I listened and I listened, and I eventually everything was fine, right? Okay. But I listened, and one of my staff came up after. I said, "That was incredible, Danielle. I just don't understand. You had so much patience. I don't know how you did that. I was just in awe of like how you sat there and listened to her and gave her the time. And she could see her just changing, and it really had an effect on me. It like boosted my ego. It made me feel great, because she gave me a very specific compliment. She didn't say, "Oh, that was amazing." She didn't just say, "That was incredible, Danielle." She gave me the details. She said, "I was watching, and I watched how you listened, and I watched how the way you had patience and held space for her and just listened to her was incredible to observe." And it completely motivated me.
She recognized your superpower and you felt seen.
I felt seen, but it made me feel amazing. And I remember I had such a boost that I wanted to show it to everybody else. And it made me tenfold improve myself, because I wanted to show everyone else, look, I can do this again. Like, look how amazing I am. So it really boosted me, my motivation to do that again and again and again. So when we are specific with our compliments, so a teacher is in a classroom saying, "Oh, I really like the way you do this. And I really love the way you ask that question. You are amazing at asking these sort of questions. And I love the way your brain works." The person that like really kind of, so the more specific, genuine we can be, instead of just a generic, you know, "You're all great." The more specific the way you can be with the compliment and the "you are" statement, the more you're going to motivate them. You're going to activate something so powerful. When someone feels like you've seen they're good at something, and they really feel it's a genuine compliment, you want to be better. You just want to show that. And that was one of the biggest examples I ever had. And it was even before I went into coaching. And it made me so much want to be even better at that. That's what I would say. Be very specific and be careful of never use it the opposite way.
Yeah, I love that, and how you can positively manipulate the behavior in the classroom. You're just really reshaping because you're telling. It's like another example. You share a post on Instagram and you get 2 likes, or you get 2,000 likes. If you get 2,000 likes, you'll keep posting more of it. If nobody likes it, you might be like, "Oh, what's the point? Nobody can see it." So it's just a feeling of a child maybe feeling seen, doing more of it, creating that positive motivation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Children, like, because a lot of the time, and again, go back to the beginning of this, a lot of the time we're not really seeing the child. We're actually teaching the child, unbeknownst to ourselves, to avoid looking at themselves. So, like, there's nothing more empowering for any of us to feel seen.
Hmm.
We feel seen, like even as adults, probably the first time we've ever felt seen. It just makes you like come alive. So to influence anyone's behavior, activate their identity bias. Activate, who you really believe at your core. Like when you say to somebody, "Oh, you're kind," I can really see how kind you were there. We'll want to be kinder. Like, "Oh, I can really see how the way you're so patient there. We'll want to be more patient. I can really see what a great listener or you're going to want to continue to prove that, to show that this is the type of person you are." So we can activate that in our children 100 million percent.
You shared so much information today. For anyone listening that wants to start making changes and do more of everything that you just shared, what is the first thing they can do other than booking a call with you?
Come on and have a conversation with me. I always say, I mean, I have so many different ways I work, whether it's coming on a walk the talk, whether it's coming into one of my programs, coming on my NLP training, or coming into my mentorship, or come to Italy with me. There's so many different ways that people can work with me, but I suppose what's really important is finding what works for you and what you need at this moment. So what I would say is do come on a call with me. You can book a call with me. Go check out my website, theblackbeltmastermind.com, or find me, Danielle Serpico. I'm everywhere, and ask to have a chat. You come on a call with me and let's look at what exactly it is that you want to do, or where there may be some blocks or some things that we can work through. And then I'll suggest what is the next best step for you, depending on where you're at and what you're looking for. So whether that's NLP training, full mentorship, or just having a one-to-one session, there's so many different ways, but depending on where a person's at, I suppose.
And what I love the most about what you do and how you do it is that you're exactly what you were saying. You teach us, but you also do it yourself so we can see how you use what you're teaching us. And that's just amazing.
It has to come from you first. I mean, I just had a conversation with a wonderful woman earlier today, who's trained in hypnosis, who's trained in everything coming out her ears, but she's still not doing it. And the reason why she's not doing it is because, unfortunately, a lot of people teach this stuff from the neck up as well. They're teaching it superficially. They're not embodying it. I learned this stuff. I didn't learn this stuff to be in business. I didn't learn this stuff to make money. I didn't learn this stuff because I wanted to become a coach. I learned this stuff to save my life and to help me feel better. So I used all the stuff for me. So now it's in me. It's like this is the way I am, and it sounds such a corny word saying embodied, but it's just part of my subconscious now. I've repeated it so many times. It's just part of who I am, that it just comes out because it's automatic. Like I speak that way and I behave that way because it's part of me. So obviously I pass that on. So one of the things when I teach somebody or work with somebody in coaching or training or whatever way I'm doing it, is so important for me not to teach a person intellectually. You've got to feel it, you've got to experience it, you've got to understand this at the core, at the source. And then you will carry that on with your children. Because again, it's by osmosis. Children learn from what they're witnessing, not just what you're saying to them. That's the smallest part. 7% of our communication is our words. It's our body language. It's all of this. It's our congruence. Are you being the person that you say you are to your children? So, like the mum that doesn't show her feelings, are you teaching a child to hide their feelings as well? So I'm not saying we want to be a wailing mess all the time around our children, but we want to show them that having feelings is normal, and that it's also manageable, and that there's a way to work through it. When we show that by being it ourselves first, that's the best education, the best training that you could ever, ever, ever give your child.
Absolutely. So I just have one more question. If we could put all this conversation into one question that parents could ask themselves to start noticing things and changing things, what would that question be?
Allow yourself to feel. Allow yourself to acknowledge and accept that you are a complete full human being and that all feelings have a purpose. If you don't accept that, you're always going to be avoiding and you're going to look for outside things to take your mind off feeling, and you'll never be in full management and self-sovereignty of your emotions. And that means you'll always be reactive, doing these things, bad habits to self-sabotage yourself in your relationships, in your career, in your finances, in your health, in every aspect of your life. You will sabotage yourself because you've learned to avoid rather than accept that you're a beautiful, full, complete human being and you're meant to have all feelings. And when you accept it, like the way if I broke this glass and I wanted to fix it, I have to look at it first before I can fix it. For me to address it, I have to look at it first. And it's the same with our feelings. So the biggest thing I could share is learn how to sit with your feelings and pass it on to your child. And both of you will then, when problems, adversity arise, you will be in a much more conducive state to be able to handle those situations. And that's the key. We want to grow bigger than our problems. Successful people, it's not like they don't have problems. They have the exact same problems as unsuccessful people in any aspect of our lives. The only difference is the people that are successful have learned how to grow bigger than their problems. And that's what we want, all of us.
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much, Danielle. That was absolutely amazing. So inspiring as always, as you are. Thank you so much for sharing your incredible wisdom with us. It's as I say, these things always plant seeds that then we decide how much we can grow those seeds. So thank you for that.
It's been a pleasure, Mireia. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you.